if you have an object selected and you hit Modifier Sync, it will basically, oh, I need to make sure it's the active object. There you go. It will take all the other instances that share the same object data, and then, yeah, it will just sync the modifier stack. So it's gonna take this modifier stack and move it over to all other instances of that object. And we can do it with any of these. So like just pick this one or this more complex one right here. And let's try it. And there you go. And we can select a range of objects, and it'll work like that too. Although you do always need an active object, otherwise it doesn't know which modifier stack to take. And you can also pick the one that doesn't have a modifier stack, and it's gonna basically just remove it from all the other objects. It's gonna remove the modifier stacks that were there. You might be surprised actually that these are instances, because if you're familiar with working with instances in Blender, you might know that it's difficult, or like I always thought it was impossible to give a different or an instance object a different material from the others, but it is actually possible if you go to the material tab. And I don't know since which Blender version this became possible exactly, but right here there is this little button which allows you to link the material to either the object or the data, and data is the default, meaning that it's gonna link it here to the object, like the data block named cube, but that means it's gonna have always the same material unless you tell it to link it to the object instead, which is what we did right here. So that's how these are purple and these are red, and it's still the same object, which is cool. Anyways, this is also a mesh object like this one is, and we can sync the modifiers on multiple mesh objects at the same time too. So we can just say like modifier sync, and it's now going to this group is going to get all this modifier stack, and this group is going to get this modifier stack. You can also make a selection like this, although then it's going to give an error because it doesn't know like, hey, am I taking from this object group, the cone? It doesn't know which one to take the modifier stack from, because like it just has 4 selected, but there's not an active one, so it'll give an error in this case. But what we could do instead is we could deselect these 3, and now it will work because it only has 1 selected object. Even though it's not active, it knows, it's smart enough to like figure out that we only have 1, so that must be the one with the modifier stack that we're interested in. Another thing you can do is you can take just 2 objects, for example, or let's take these 2 here. And now I can, like with this one active, I can say modifier sync, and you can tell it didn't affect those outer ones because it limited itself to the selection. So that's what I call limited modifier sync, is basically when you select one object and hit modifier sync, it affects all of them. Or when you select all of them and hit it, it's going to also select all of them. But when you only have a sub-selection or a subset of the whole group, then it's only going to affect those ones selected, which yeah, can be very handy if you want to omit certain objects. And you cannot do that with like 2 different groups at the same time though, because again, it doesn't know which one to use as a reference point. So if I did it like this, for example, so we have 2 of this one and 2 of that one, it won't work because it doesn't know which modifier stack to take. But if we do it like this, then it will work because we have this limited selection here. And when we just have a single object selected, it's going to affect the rest of the group. And that combination does work. So the cube group has a limited selection, whereas the cone group gets all of them applied because we only have a single one selected. I hope that makes sense to you. But anyways, the system is designed so that it's forgiving, right? So you can make a lot of different kinds of selection and it's still going to work. So like if, for example, you don't really understand the tool that well, but you just do like a drag selection of all of them and hit the button, something's going to happen. And you might be like, oh, that's not really what I expected. And then you might figure out like, I'll make a different one active, and then there you go. So we can also affect other types of objects. So like we can affect text objects. So it's a real text object. And Modifier Sync, it just works just as well as the others do. This is a curve type object. This one has a mirror modifier on top of it. So Modifier Sync, there we go. And of course we can like do those at the same time as well. Like a combination of different types of objects. And we can do it for all of these here at the same time. Modifier Sync. So you might think like, isn't that the same as the built-in functionality that Blender has, which is called copy modifier stack, I believe. So the way it's different is if you want to use copy modifier stack, what you would do is like you would select a range of objects and have an active one, and with Control L there's copy modifiers. Okay, so just copy modifiers, and then that will work. But it's a little bit of a different feature because or a different type of functionality, because we can select all of these and have this one active. And this same menu, by the way, I added it under the Blender menus because it's related to instances and handy to have nearby. And you might forget the hotkey. So again, that's Control L, but it's also here. So copy modifiers. So now this modifier got also copied over to these objects, which can be nice. And so it's a great feature to have also. But like this one is specifically designed to be working within a single instance group, and you just want to make sure that all other instances are getting updated with the modifier stack that you're building on the thing that like you're trying to make, and like all the other instances in the scene. So again, you don't have to even select anything else. You can just be working on this one, just quickly hit the sync button, and like it'll just work. We can quickly test how it does though with objects that are hidden. So if we select this one right here, it doesn't have any modifiers, so we can see that from these little gear icons there, or wrench icons, I should say. Modifier sync. So even though they were hidden, they were still updated, and I can reveal them again. There you go. And I think that's it. All I wanted to say about modifier sync. I hope it will come in handy in your workflow. So thanks for watching.